Well, gentlemen, welcome. It's nice to see you all. Uh, Let me begin by asking, since Father Bill, who normally opens us with prayer, is out of town this morning, let me ask Doug, please, to open.
The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we thank you for the gift of this group of men, for the God that we serve, for the Jesus whom we follow. We pray particularly this day for our rector, for Bill, who was at the Chrism Mass with the other presbyters of this diocese. May this be a rich time for them as they gather together in the cathedral. We pray for the people of Ukraine. Our hearts ache for them and for all those who are struggling with war and oppression around this world. We pray particularly for Greg Shearer and his family as they mourn the loss of dear Linda. We pray for Lee Cooper and that he heal well. May he avoid surgery, O Lord. Be with us now and open our hearts to be led by the Spirit to find your way for us and your will for us. In Christ's precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. It is our usual custom to begin with a prayer.
Oh, no.
With a hymn, rather, not a prayer. We did the prayer part. Oh, there's Dennis. Hi, Dennis. We do not have an accompanist this morning, so we'll be doing this a cappella. Perhaps Doug can start us, or Jonathan, or one of our choir members. We all have different talents, different skills, but we are God's hands and feet on this earth at this time. So let's sing together. It's a poem. It's almost a prayer. Number 707. I think it's a very familiar one. Take my life and let it be.
Want us to stand?
Let's stand. We always sing better, particularly when you shake down the donuts and the coffee.
Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to thee. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of thy love. Take my heart, it is thine own, it shall be thy royal throne. Take my voice and let me sing, always only for my King. Take my intellect and use every power that thou shalt choose. Take my will and make it thine, it shall be no longer mine. Take myself and I shall be ever only all for thee.
Thank you. A number of the men of our congregation, and women too, but since this is a men's group, we'll address the men, are involved in foreign missions in one place or the other, and missions of one type or other. And a few of us thought it might be kind of fun and interesting to hear what some of our brothers are doing around the world to share Christ's love and spread God's presence. So you saw the announcements, who all we're going to be hearing from, or the subjects we're going to be hearing about. So first, I want to call on John Harries to talk to us about El Hogar. And this is a mission that many of us, that this congregation has been involved in for quite some time. So John, where are we and what's going on?
Okay, we stay here.
That's fine.
Thanks ever so much for having this gathering and reminding us all, especially after the last couple of years, things have slowed down a bit, about the work the church does in foreign countries and benefits the real poverty in this world. And it's been my pleasure. I retired in the year 2000. The next year, looking around, I got very interested, and we had a speaker come up speak about El Hogar. It was just getting off the ground in 2000, and I was very enthralled by it and plunged into it. But let me give you a little background about Honduras. Why Honduras? Two things. One is they have a terrible history of storms, hurricanes, and two in the last 50 years have caused tremendous destruction to the country. Over 10,000 dead in both the PV, which was in 1972, and in 1998 it was Mitch, and over 10,000 dead in each case. And the other thing, it had lacking a long history on the country, in that the rains came and floods for they had a year's rain in 1 or 2 days, and it just washed off soil. It was the basis of their economy, agriculture. So it was sad that this happened, and it really destroyed much of the organization, the family structure, removing the soil, as it was basically an agricultural economy, banana republic so-called, and it really destroyed the operation of the country. The second thing was they've had very poor leadership in politics. As a matter of fact, the last president, who stepped down in this January, is in the U.S., extradited to the U.S., is on trial for drug trafficking. Drugs became a big issue after agriculture became less of a focus. The fact is that families who relied on agriculture, all of a sudden fathers left home looking for work, and kids got involved in gangs, and drugs became a big issue. And on top of all that, Honduras, and part of all that is that Honduras is the leading world murder capital. I mean, the whole country has the highest murder rate of any country in the world. So it's a very disrupted social structure. And unfortunately, it's getting better now, but it has gone on for some time. Can I have the next, please? Excuse me, do I do something or do you do something?
Here it is. You
Thanks.
just tell me.
No problem. So what is El Hogar as an organization? It's responding to Honduran realities. 40% of the population live on less than $2 a day. The unemployment rate, because of the agricultural sort of disorganization, 30%. Many children are orphans or homeless. The fathers tended to move on. So there were a lot of families that we visited where just the mother was there, the father was gone, or another father had come in, and very few children were getting an education. So our mission was to really help empower the abandoned and hopelessly poor children in Honduras by providing a loving home and education, as I'll outline in the next slide or two. Next, excuse me, got the next one? Oh, sorry.
It's just a couple second delay.
No problem. So as you can see, just a little bit of a layout. You can see the tip of Florida above. You can see South America below, and you can see on Honduras on the right, sort of as a funnel that captures these winds that come through. And it really does subject that Central America part to a lot of abuse and heavy hurricane history. Next. Okay. So the whole story of El Hogar starts not with the US, Canada, or North America, but an Englishman who was retired, a fairly wealthy guy, and he retired and decided to go on a round the world cruise. And he got as far as Honduras, and he was absolutely appalled by the fact that children living in the streets, that it was really sad what he saw in terms of the family disruption and all. And he left the cruise and flew back to England and developed a 2-year plan of action with the international organization to fund and support Honduras. And the first act, I think, was in '79. There was a local church in Tegucigalpa, the capital, which found 5 boys living in boxes in various parts of Tegucigalpa, which is the capital. And they rescued them, washed them, cleaned them, and took them in. And that was the start of really El Hogar, long before it got organized internationally or nationally. In '89, they built a residential school on a large tract of land they'd acquired. And they named the school El Hogar de Amor y Esperanza, the home of love and hope. A cottage was built on the property initially to house 25 boys. And it's because, why boys? And this organization focused on boys for a number of years because the girls were not in the communities, they were at home, or they were not loose and gang oriented. So the boys in the community, they were abandoned at a rate of about 10-to-1 compared to girls. In 2001, El Hogar Ministries, Inc. was formed with US and Canadian support, and a technical school was built removed from the capital. So now we had a residential school in the capital. We started out with 25 boys, and you'll see in a minute, it went up to 100. By 2007, El Hogar realized, although the girls were in the community gangs, that they were having the same problems. So they took girls in, and in 2011, they built a girls' home, once again outside of Tegucigalpa. So looking down, what's going on now? There's 100 boys and girls in residence in an elementary school in the capital. There's 100 boys living at St. Mary's Technical School, which is a wonderful school. Just see pictures of it in a minute. 50 girls in a girls' residence going to a private school because they didn't have enough money to build another school. And the school has recently started taking in day students. So it was all residential until the last 5 years or so. Next, please. So here's the school the part of the school in Tegucigalpa. Tegucigalpa is grades 1 through 6. And you can see the, oops, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
And the boys learn skills that will help them get jobs once they complete the school, which goes to grade 12 now. The next slide, please. We missed one, I thought, but anyway, did we? No?
That's the next one.
Oh, anyway, I'm an amateur at this, putting together slides. Well, so where do we fit into this? In 2001, this newly formed El Hogar national or international organization with Canada and the US, Episcopal organization, one of the members of the board came to speak us here at St. Michael's in 2001 and talked up the need for support. And right after that, it started that St. Michael's really plunged in and became very supportive. As a matter of fact, over the next couple of years, 20 families at St. Michael's supported children through a program that was really developed to get the children out of the streets and into El Hogar. I was appointed to the board of directors of this El Hogar Canada-US organization, and my wife and I went in 2012 to do some medical exams along with two other physicians on the board. We examined all 250 children, and I can tell you it was a riot in a way. These kids had no medical records, no immunization records, and by the end of the week, we examined all the kids and they had charts for each one of them, which was just great. We had some funny experiences, which I won't get into it because I don't have time. But anyway, at 2013, we organized and developed a mission trip with 11 parishioners, and it was a 1-week visit. Next slide, please. And you can see this is a group, starting from the right. The Menil family went, their 2 daughters were with us. And then the Schumans, then Don Rowley and his wife, and then Paul Goddard, who was our spiritual advisor, did every morning, did a little service with the team of us who were there for a week, and then myself and my wife. You can see underneath the altar all this stuff. We went to Honduras in 2013 with 20 full 50-pound bags. So 1,000 bags of clothes, drugs. The kids there suffer from athlete's foot like you wouldn't know because they wear rubber boots all the time and it's a wet place. And so we took 100 tubes of athlete's foot medication, which really upset the people at Honduras airport, I can tell you. Anyway, we settled down. We had a lovely week. In the morning, we did repaired concrete drains, painted the buildings, and in the afternoon, we interacted with the kids, and we had a wonderful week there. Paul Goddard, as I said, kept us going with the morning sort of spiritual kind of talk that he was great, and he really kept us together that week. So is that the last one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So we had a great week. It's continued. Unfortunately, the last 3 or 4 years, things have cooled off because we've all been dealing with our own problems, COVID particularly. But I hope that we can get back into the sponsorship of children and support of the El Hogar program. Thank you. Is there any questions? I took 20 years and tried to compress it down to 7 minutes or something. Did I make it?
Oh, yeah, we're pretty good.
Get on.
We're all right. All right. Unfortunately, I will be introducing a set of videos for the next presentation. Common Hope. Greg Shearer was planning to make this presentation, but of course is not able to do so. So Sue has spliced together several snippets of the YouTube presentation.
Just put it a little farther away.
Of the YouTube presentation that was made when the executive director of Common Hope visited here in, I believe it was January. So Sue, if you'd show the snippets, this gives us an overview of what Common Hope is all about. And by the way, is anybody here involved in Common Hope? Okay, well, you just all over.
Well, it just happened, we heard that talk in January. Now,
Turn
now
that off.
support a
Just
child.
turn that off
Yeah.
for a second. And I'll get another one while the video's going. Okay.
Excuse me for being so animated.
For those of you who are new to us, we serve 10,000 children and adults living in 27 different communities in the Central Highlands of Guatemala. Our mission is to partner with those who want to improve their own lives through our programs in education, healthcare, housing, and family development. The heart of our work is absolutely education. It centers on a relationship with a sponsored student, and it involves their whole family. When that family commits to education, we promise to be there as long as their children continue to study in school. That sounds really simple, but it is a significant commitment for the families that we serve. Because unlike here, public school is not free. There are monthly and annual registration fees, uniforms, school books, transportation, and many other expenses. And tuition can often be 6 months of a family's income for one of their children to attend high school. So very quickly, school becomes a luxury. Imagine how it must feel to be faced with the difficult decision of whether or not your kids can attend school, or what I think is even the more impossible decision, choosing which can attend school and which must go to work to help provide for the family. So when we partner with a family, we find sponsors for half of the students in the family. However, the whole family benefits from our programs. So if the family has 4 children, we will try to find sponsors for 2 children. And then we connect that sponsor or 2 sponsors to the family. We write letters back and forth. So every year we translate about 12,000 letters from English to Spanish or Spanish to English that go back and forth to sponsors. And we encourage our sponsors to come visit in Guatemala to meet the family. The kids vary in age when they start in the program, because a family that comes to us may have a preschooler and a grade school student and a high school student or junior high school student. So we try to bring families on board as early as possible, but the kids sometimes do start at different ages. I think there was a third question.
When do they exit the program?
Oh, and when do they exit the program? They exit the program when they graduate from high school. So if there are still children in the family that are attending school, the family doesn't exit the program, but the graduate would. And typically what we see is that when a graduate gets their first job, it's a very familial society and a very community-based society, so they stay close to home. And they tend to live close to their family, and they tend to help support their family. So when a student graduates from high school, the poverty line in Guatemala is $400 a month on average. Most of our families earn $200 to $250 a month. But when a student graduates from high school, they start contributing another $200, and that lifts that family above the poverty line. And then when the next student graduates, even more so. So this is really truly how our families are lifting themselves out of poverty.
So they go directly into the workforce from high school generally?
They do. So in Guatemala, in high school, you choose a career. So the big leap in Guatemala for education and earning potential still is high school. It's not college yet, because only about 3% of the population has a college degree in Guatemala. So they typically go directly to the workforce. We do have some kids that begin to attend university, but they typically wait for 2 or 3 years before they do, because kids are considered adults when they graduate from high school, and so now they're really more independent. So if they choose to go to university, they would probably work full-time and go to university on the weekends or the evenings. And that's the most common. So they choose their career in high school, and then they start working in that career when they graduate, and then some will in the future go on to university.
Tell us about the health care that happens on site, and talk a little bit about Guatemala's on-site presence on site in Guatemala or in Antigua.
Yeah, about the clinic and the health
Clinic,
program.
what else is involved in that compound there?
Yep.
Daycare.
So I mentioned earlier that we operate our own clinic in Antigua, and that serves about 900 families out of that clinic. And we provide basic curative and preventative health care out of our program. There are many times when family members need something more. They might need surgery, they might need chemo or radiation, they might need a specialist for one reason or another. And in that case, then we refer them and help provide transportation and help cover the costs for anything that they need that we don't provide ourselves. That's not the only thing that we do at the Antigua site. We have an entire education program there. We have computer labs for the kids to be able to come and do their homework, to be able to research. We have a library. We have a early childhood stimulation program where we're helping moms and their little kids prepare to go to school.
Construction.
And we have a construction department where our construction team actually builds the prefab pieces for the homes that we go out and build on the family sites.
Pickleball court.
So, Common Hope, another site in the Caribbean Basin, in a developing nation, another opportunity to serve, and several members of our congregation are supporting the efforts there.
I think Greg has been going for a number of years, if I remember right. I'm trying to choose.
Yeah, I believe they have. Well, that's all right. Probably most folks would rather I be on mute. Yes, Greg's been doing other for quite some time. But they focus on education, families, and healthcare. Let's go to a different part of the world. Kirk, let's hear about what you got going.
Should I be there?
Well, what you, yeah, you said sit in the middle there.
Okay.
What you got going.
Okay, can you hear me here? Okay, my wife and I have been partners with World Vision, an international relief and development organization, for about 40 years. And in 2008, they made us aware of a very great, grave need for clean water in Sierra Leone. The country had been ravaged by a civil war for 10 years. You may have heard of the Blood Diamonds War over the diamond mines in Sierra Leone, where rebels came in and just destroyed many towns there, destroyed their water systems and in an effort to take over the diamond mines and become rich. But in that process, many people lost their access to clean water, and some never had it before anyway. And when we came into Sierra Leone, this is what we saw. People were going down to the streams, the rivers, even standing pools of water to both bathe, to wash dishes and clothes, for their cattle to get in the water and do whatever they did. And the water was absolutely polluted, and one of the greatest causes of disease, cholera and other diseases, was the waterborne diseases. Let's move on. They encouraged us to help build some wells, some clean water sources for about a dozen villages in this part of Sierra Leone. This is one of the villages, the village of Lukubu, that we went to for part of the day. And let's move on. The villagers wanted to show us what their traditional source of water had been. They took us down to a river, which was like a quarter mile away. Let's move on. And showed us this little girl there who was doing what they've been doing for a long time, which is washing their dishes and clothes down in that river there. And you can tell how polluted the water is. Then they showed us this well that we had helped to fund in the village, where people now had a source of bringing water to their homes very close by, and it was clean water. It was water that they had control over. The well was one that was protected from disease, and even, let's go to the next slide. So, you probably can't tell that you can't in this picture, but we made a mistake. When we came into that little protected well area, we were wearing our shoes. And they said, no, you weren't supposed to wear your shoes in here. That would bring in disease. But anyway, we were delighted to hear, because the village chief and others would say, thank you, because now our children aren't dying. They had an infant mortality rate of 20%. 20% of their children would die within the first 5 years. And water was, to a great extent, the cause of that. Let's move on. And in several villages, such as this one, we'd be greeted by just dozens and dozens of children who'd be singing songs to us. Thank you, friends, for coming to us. And they'd want to touch our skin. They'd never seen a white person before. And just the smiles, the happiness was just really infectious. Let's move on. Okay. While we were there, World Vision Sierra Leone said, are you interested in another project besides clean water? And we said, sure. They said, well, we have an educational project that you may be interested in. This is carrying the theme of education further that we had this morning. They said that during this last 10 years war, many young women were pulled out of their homes by these rebels, taken as war brides. They were taken around the country. They were inseminated by their rebel leaders. And then when the war was over, they were left as young women with children, but no husband, no education, no job, no way to take care of their families. So there was a teacher, a middle-aged teacher that we met named Hawa Komba, who had a vision for creating a school, a vocational school, to provide vocational skills to these young women. She had gone to World Vision and had gotten World Vision to partner with her. They got a partner in the UK to build the first part of a school here, which we visited. They said the school is only half finished. It can't support itself. It needs to have outside donations to keep going. We can't do that. We need something that is ongoing with self-supporting. Let's move on. This is what we saw there, that school, and it actually is a bit bigger than that. But the women were learning skills like hairdressing. This is one of the skills. Let's move on. They were learning cooking, culinary, what's the word, catering skills. Move on. They were learning dressmaking, tailoring skills. After we were impressed by the need there, we decided to partner with them, and we helped them build some expansion to the school. This is the expansion. You see the upper story there that was not there before. There were a few other buildings on the side that were part of it. That's not why it's down in the lower left corner. Let's go on. Part of the expansion was a children's primary, daycare or kindergarten school, which they named after us. They called it the Corcoran Nursery and Daycare. And they graduated a number of children there. These children are the children of the young women who were there, who were in the classes with them all the time. I should have pointed that out, where women trying to learn hairdressing were having their children pull on their arms and saying, "Mama, Mama, I need something." And it was very hard for them to learn while the kids were there. So in 2013, we went back and we got to experience a graduation of some of the young women. This is one of the young women graduating from the school itself. And it was so important to the country that this was the country's Minister of Education that came down to help award the certificates. We were real pleased about that. And then you can see kind of through them the young children who were sitting there because they were graduating that day too. Let's move on. This is my wife giving a certificate to one of the young boys who was graduating that day. And he would go on to be really excel in the public school system because he'd have a better education than most kids of his age. Let's move on. While we were there in 2013, I'm sorry, they indicated a very strong need for another expansion, which would also include vocational skills for young men, including car mechanics, building, carpentry trades, and so forth. And we finally were able to get them the funds for that, where it was just completed. Matter of fact, it's not quite, because this is the building as of a couple of weeks ago. And it has an additional 10 classrooms and storage rooms and that sort of thing. And they don't have the furniture and equipment yet. We actually were on the phone yesterday working on that part of it. But it's still an ongoing project. The thing that we're excited about, the women and the young men who will be coming come from a background of no faith, or they may have been Muslim or rarely Christian, but they're coming into a Christian environment, a Christian campus, which is proudly proclaiming that we're doing this out of the love of God. And many young women have become Christian as a result of this and go on to share the love with others. So it's an ongoing ministry that we're a part of, and hopefully we'll go back to the next year or so to help dedicate this new campus.
I have a question. Who were the teachers? Where they come from?
They're from Sierra Leone, and they've been vetted as to having more ability than most teachers. A teacher normally can teach with like a 6th grade education or so. But here, these teachers have gone on further, have got more education, and have the ability to communicate and guide students better than most.
But the vocational skills you're teaching, such as carpentry, mechanics, that sort of thing,
local teachers, you're able to find local teachers. to
They
do
are,
that.
yeah. And one thing I didn't mention was that the students themselves are illiterate. They cannot read and write. So part of the education is teaching reading and writing. And then in some cases, computer skills to go ahead and be able to work in the workplace.
Several thousand miles away, but still a lot of similarities to what we saw in the Caribbean Basin. And I may be wrong, but I think we're going to see a lot more of that coming up. Alan, tell us about Christian veterinaries.
I've not done this before, so bear with me. When I retired, I was suddenly available to do different things, and I got interested in a group called Christian Veterinary Mission, started by a veterinarian in Georgia who recognized something that should have been apparent years ago, that veterinarians have a great deal to contribute to third and fourth world societies that depend upon their animals. So I joined this group, and I had this idea that I might go to Africa and create, see my interest in animals and be in Africa. But right after I joined, I had a call from founder Leroy Dominy and said that the veterinarian that was in Haiti had become ill, or would I go down there to temporarily relieve him? So I did, and became part of the active Christian Veterinary Mission. And now we have like 25 different veterinarians in different countries of the world doing what you might imagine, as well as preaching the word of the Lord. But that's not the main thing. The main thing is helping people live better. So where I went in Haiti was probably the most interesting thing that I had done as we went. Well, I served, I was down in Haiti for several months till I was replaced. My impact, I'll mention that a little bit later. Where they sent me in Haiti was a Hospital Albert Schweitzer, which is a very interesting background. Larry Mellon from the Mellon family in Pittsburgh had left the financial business and became a rancher in Arizona. And his new wife and he read this is the story we were told, read a Life magazine article about Schweitzer's operation in Africa. So Larry Mellon, at 38 or something, I went back to medical school, became a trained physician, and then traveled to Haiti and bought a banana plantation way out in the boondocks. And we were like, that's where I served at Hospital Albert Schweitzer. It was like 2 hours driving from Port-au-Prince. But what he set up was a separate hospital. And then he enlisted the help of many physicians from the United States. And he financed this whole thing. And we were actually isolated. He had no phone. We had electricity, but no phone service. But he chose to do that because Haiti, and most of you know the history of Haiti, is really tenuous. And he wanted to be very isolated, and we were. So that hospital was started with very few beds. I think now there are 200 people there. And Larry Mellon and his wife are both gone. It is now supported by donations from different charities. And it was really a great experience for me to be part of living with missionaries. I'm really impressed with how different missionaries view life and how envious I am of them, because the materialism is not part of their motivating factor. They're there to serve, and that's been really an eye-opening thing for me. Schweitzer is well, the last story I would tell you is that my project, and I was at the hospital I was Schweitzer, they had a farm, and I looked after the farm animals. And one of the programs that we were involved in when I was there is there was disease called African swine fever, which is a very contagious disease of pigs. And the United States Department of Agriculture was so worried that that would spread to the pork industry in the United States that they got the Haitians to sign on to changing the whole population of pigs in Haiti. What that required was that we, the United States government, had to pay each farmer for his pigs when they were destroyed in Haiti. And then over a 2-year period, brought down new pigs from the United States that were immune to this disease. And I was on the fringe of that, working with that when I was in Haiti. But one of the things I learned, and we learned by, you call it unintended results, after this program was all done, and there were more pigs, more healthy pigs, but there was no place to go with the healthy pigs. The economy could not sustain them. And it has reverted back to where and when I was there, we were raising pigs in very confined, healthy environments. Now they've gone back to being wild pigs again. Unintended results, I guess. I guess that's what I learned. Thank you very much.
Wow, what a variety of ministries. I'm going to continue the conversation about Haiti. Say a few words about the Village of Hope, which is a fundraising body of which and I'm on the board. We operate a school and a clinic in Haiti. Some of you here may remember Christianville. This congregation used to sponsor a mission in west of Gantier called Christianville. Well, the founder of that mission, Carol Hurd, when she retired, she got bored after about 2 years, like most of you guys, and so she asked for another mission, and the government gave her another piece of property, and that's what became Village of Hope. So I didn't know that coincidence until longer after I'd been part of St. Michael's, but nevertheless, founded by a Christian missionary with 12 kids under a tree trying to teach them to read, and it has since grown. It's funded by a 501c3 in the U.S. We added the health clinic, and our entire staff is Haitian. The field director, all the medical staff, teachers, and so forth. Next, please. This is a very familiar map. You saw an earlier version of this that John showed us. Haiti is right smack in the middle. It's that open jaw thing to the left of the Dominican Republic. And you see the star where Port-au-Prince is located. Next, please, Sue. And to the right of Port-au-Prince, Port-au-Prince is down right at the very mouth, at the beginning of the mouth there, and the Dominican Republic is on the right. Our school and clinic are halfway between Port-au-Prince and that on that main highway going to the Dominican Republic. Thank you. Next, please. We started out, as I said, with a dozen kids under a tree back in the 90s, and now we have reached maximum capacity of 40 kids per class, 16 classes, 3 years of kindergarten, 12 years of high school, 1 year of college prep. This year we have that many enrolled. As I said, it's all Haitian faculty and staff. Our classroom work is conducted in accordance with the Haitian National Curriculum, which is quite an ambitious academic curriculum. And we meet their standards, and we're very proud that we have a pass rate on the national exams of about 85% compared to a national pass rate of about 35%. Next, please. This is just, no, I didn't borrow these from John. This is my school. He's got his own school, but they look a whole lot alike. The little ones up on the left and the high schoolers bottom right. Next, please. Part of being well educated is also not being hungry, and so that the kids are able to learn.
So we opened an outpatient medical clinic about 5 years ago, and we provide all those services that you can see there. It's actually certified by the Ministry of Health as a regional clinic that serves 70,000 people in our district, which is pretty much of a challenge for a staff of 15 on our medical staff. But then when you consider that nobody in this part of Haiti, very few people have their own vehicles of any kind, they have to walk to the clinic. Well, if you're fairly ill, you're not going to walk 3-4 miles to the clinic. So of that 70,000, we see only maybe 100 a day at the most, because that's all that can get to the clinic. Next, please. I wanted to show you this picture. That's a picture of our clinic. Dentist or head physician, folks waiting in line. And I show kids at the school eating a lunch because we provide a hot meal to the students every day as a noon meal, and that's probably the only meal those kids get all day. So lunch is the highlight of their day, but that contributes to healthy students, healthy minds. Next, please. Some of our successes, I mentioned our high graduation rate. Several of our faculty and staff are actually graduates of Village of Hope that went to university and came back, and I think there are now 3 on our medical staff, and about 4 of our education faculty are graduates of Village of Hope. We have one of the better equipped science labs, thanks to generous donors. We actually have a high school band, which is rather unique in that part of Haiti. And we do have a computer center which allows us actually to do Zoom. We've actually done some teachers training program from the United States using Zoom and working with the Haitian teachers. John also stole my thunder when he was talking about Honduras in terms of political unrest, gang activity, crazy politics. They just strike out Honduras and insert Haiti, because Haiti is in that same boat. Lots of challenges facing the country right now. The political unrest, there are 24 political parties, so nobody's in charge of anything. And it's just a very difficult situation. And because of gang activity now, we're not allowing any visitors in. It's just unsafe for anybody to go. So, but our dedicated faculty and staff there are carrying on, and we are Village of Hope Incorporated is just providing the funds for them to keep on going. Thank you. Next slide, yeah.
That was your last slide.
That's mine, that's right. So now, you may have seen the theme here. We started off with some individual countries. I started with missions that we at St. Michael's have heard about because they're active, ongoing now. Some others that we may not have known about. Well, now we're going to talk about some more worldwide things. And Blaise Corcoran is going to tell us about what's going on with Purpose Earth.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Go ahead to the slide. I'm aware of the time. Good morning.
Oh, don't worry. We're all here. We're going to eat donuts afterwards anyway.
Great. Well, good morning, gentlemen. These have been really inspiring. It's a reminder of how integrated and small the world is, isn't it? Seeing what we're doing. This organization, go ahead, Sue, is called Purpose Earth. It's an initiative of a larger group with which I'm involved called Unity Earth. I'm a senior advisor to that group. But Purpose Earth is our grassroots level on the ground work. And it's interesting the title of today's talk is Foreign Mission. This is a very new approach. We're not involved in religion. It's more of a spirituality approach. So it's good for those millions of people who say, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. And that, of course, is a very popular trend among youth. I just want to mention this young woman on the right in the picture. she's one of our ambassadors active in our program. She was actually born into slavery in Bangladesh, into the clothes making industry. And it's been such a reminder learning from her about the importance of knowing where our clothes came from, how they were made, and particularly the labor that was involved in them. She escaped, and we're funding her work. Go ahead, Sue. We're funding her work in a project for girls who are. Oh yeah, go ahead. Let's show this as a minute and a half. We celebrate the people, we call them change makers, the people who are doing our projects. This is just a brief introduction to our work from last year's change makers.
Right now, we need to make a turn, a momentous once in human history turn. We need to shift back to the spiritual nature of who we really are. Join us June 21st for Purpose Earth, a global virtual event creatively weaving our interconnected stories and catalyzing real-world impact through music, conversation, movement, and inspiration. Donations from this fundraising event will go toward our Purpose Earth Fund, supporting innovative grassroots organizations finding creative solutions to our social and ecological challenges. Now is the time. We all need to come together as one humanity with one cause of creating this new purpose on the planet.
Appeal to youth and to alternative faith. I think we might have just hold it for a minute.
Yep,
if you
I'm
will.
holding.
Great. So Purpose Earth is, our mission is to fund and mentor small projects, purpose-driven projects with creative solutions to challenges. The areas we've particularly worked in are environmental restoration, community activation, and cultural collaboration. And this celebration of change makers is an event that we do where we put together an hour program to show people who are contributing or who might contribute what we're doing in our various projects. And I was invited to introduce last year's project. And so let's roll it. It's a surprise guest in an undisclosed location, which you probably have.
Nice place to live, he said.
Aren't we blessed?
So,
Good evening. Welcome to Purpose Earth's celebration of change makers.
I got to do the introduction from the beach on Sanibel, which was fun.
Tough dude.
And today we actually have, at noon today, we have another celebration of change makers, and these are to introduce the new projects. So we're just in quick summary, if you want to go, is that an active click? Can you go to the website? Sue?
I can.
All righty. We're new. We just started in 2019. We have 28 grant recipients. We're in 15 countries, including the United States. We have Native American on urban projects in the United States. And they're all small. Our largest grant is $10,000. And so far there we go. We've given away $250,000. And just go down to the 4 projects and I'll wrap up with that. Okay, there, for example, go just a little lower, there. Those are just 4 projects that are on right now. Pescados project is cage fish farming in Lake Victoria in Kenya. The Gazella Collective is a wonderful project in Israel, bringing Palestinian and Israeli women together for a weaving project. Mohawk Vision, we're sponsoring, and I guess this is certainly not very churchy, but in its own way it is. We're sponsoring the building of the Longhouse up on the Akwesasne Reservation where the Mohawk people are. And as you know, the Longhouse is the spiritual home where ceremonies took place and traditional spiritual ecologies of the indigenous people were celebrated. So it's fun, it's diverse. We're particularly excited with this mentorship relation. Everyone is assigned. I mentor some projects. I'm on the Grant Selection Council. Each of us has projects which we really work with developing leadership, and we do seminars for the leaders all around the world so they get to know each other. So we might do a workshop on media or technology, and the leaders of the projects from all over meet and get to know each other. So it's a network, and it's kind of a, maybe I'm last because it's kind of a look at where I think things might be going in non-traditional approaches to mission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. And now,
Let me get to.
moving on with the bigger picture of serving worldwide, Wes Peterson is going to share with us some of his work in planting churches.
Okay. If we look at the world map here, zero in sort of in the middle. You see the yellow dots there? That is the country of Ukraine. And that is where I started my first church planting experiences 25 years ago. Wow. And that's 1997. I had no idea at that time what was going to happen there. In fact, I didn't even want to go on that trip. My wife was invited to go with some of her friends to do some projects, I guess, with kids. And in the last minute, they dragged me along. But I realized when I got there why I was there. And that is, they didn't have places to worship. And so these young pastors in training, so to speak, shared their vision. What they wanted to do was buy older homes for about $5,000 and then convert them into a church for about another $5,000. So I went along with that, and over the next 7 years then, we did 12 projects of churches. And I partnered with the Baptist General Conference in Minnesota to do these projects. Also, we did 3 training centers. One of them was down in Crimea. Crimea has been in the news because 2014, Russia annexed it. But I was fortunate to get in there 3 times and help with some projects, some church plants and also a training center there. Now, what do you think has happened the last few weeks with these properties? Well, fortunately, they haven't been destroyed. Putin's going to pay the price someday for what's going on there, I believe, along with many others that are causing this disaster. So let's see, could you scroll that down a little bit so you can see the top there?
No, I can't.
Okay, well, okay. I couldn't find my pictures, but I used my cell phone to take a picture of this collage. So here we are. On the right-hand side is the capital of Kiev, some projects there, some things there. In the middle, there's kind of 3 columns in the middle. That shows some examples of these homes that were converted to church buildings. You can see there. Let's see, that would be about 2.5 hours south of the capital of Kiev. And I get regular emails now from some of my ministry partners. They're so excited when I see this. It's not what you see in the news. What do I see? They're surviving with food production. And that's what these churches are now used for. They're refugee centers. Okay, so on the left side then is from down in Crimea. You see towards the bottom there, there's an old building there with a kind of a slant roof there. That was a warehouse that some Canadian businessmen had bought for about $8,000. And then so we matched that amount and we created what the vision was there. And that is, that building became a church, a bakery, and then about 12 rooms for like efficiency apartments for destitute people. So anyway, that's kind of a picture of what happened there. Now, let's move away from Ukraine. Let's fast forward to 2011. We talk about ICM, the Global Church Developer. This allowed me to move in a more rapid manner with church planting and hook into a major organization. And their vision, can't quite read it from here, but it says their vision is to develop a healthy church within walking distance of everyone in the world. Goes on to explain there, what is a healthy church, why the church, what's our strategy in discipleship and so on. All right, so let's move to the next slide here. What happened then, when I connected with them 11 years ago, I did a church. Okay, so to date, my 3 sons and myself have done 112 projects. Then the number I look for, I get this report about every 6 months. I get it in a booklet. They have pages showing the churches that are under construction and completed. And so what I look for is like, how many daughter churches? Because, you see, we start with a trained pastor. He has to have a flock to support him financially. We don't want any American money going for salaries or anything like that. The only money that they can use from us is to provide some materials to give them a boost so they can have a place to worship. And here's another one here. Pass this around if you want to see what it's like here. So let's go back to the world here. I'm going to change my script here a bit. About once or twice a year, I feel God's Spirit moving me to say, now is the time you need to do something. So it was 2 years ago. I had a neighbor friend at Genonia. Her name is Jean Zelko. And her daughter had died. And I said to Jean, why don't we do some churches in her memory? Oh, that would be good. So I called my fundraiser contact, Robert Leatherwood in Tampa, and I said, Robert, where is God moving now? Where do you want us to go? So he contacts the home office, they have a little talk there, and then he calls me back and said, Wes, now the place is Brazil. So now you can see in the middle of South America there's some red dots there. So we picked 4 projects. Together then, we set up a matching grant. I don't want to do the total of the projects. I want to invite other people to join me as partners with this. Then they can see, and then they can almost like claim this is their church. So I want to multiply it with the funds here. So we did those 4 projects in Brazil. Now let's fast forward to yesterday. Yesterday, Jean Zelko passed away. Now, she's been a close friend of mine, a neighbor. The only reason I'm here is she invited me here to this church 3 years ago. I had never been in an Episcopal church. And I come here the first time and, whoa, they're wearing these robes and it's kind of formal. Here I am, a Baptist guy from Minnesota. What's going on here? But anyway, I thought that's pretty good. In fact, the first thing she invited me to was a Russian music thing, because she knew I was in Ukraine and doing some things for Russian people. I thought, well, that's okay. I got in the building. Then the next time, she said, well, how'd you like to try a Sunday bar? I said, okay, so I went along. Well, then I got into it. I realized this is sacred worship. This was good. So, I'm sorry, I got off the track here. I'm not even following my script here now. Okay, so then I called Robert yesterday. I said, Robert, here's what's happened. Where is God moving now? I'm going to do something in memory of Gene. He said Rwanda. Central Africa, you see a series of dots. I just put those dots on there. And I had done 3 projects in Rwanda in the past, but he said Rwanda is hot right now in terms of God moving there. And so I said, how many do you have available? He said, so he checked, he said, I got 4. Okay, I said, okay, I will be the matching grant partner for those 4. What does it cost to do a project? Well, it's $15,000. It's kind of the average now, but can you imagine that? Maybe it sounds like a lot, but I mean a church building for $15,000. And what's the purpose of the church? Well, it's to be the lighthouse for a community where maybe there's nothing. This is what's happening in the places that we're working. You know, the 1040 window and places like that where there's just not much in a community. So I agreed to those 4, and I said, I'm going to challenge St. Michael's Church. Maybe somebody would like to partner. Now, if you partner, you get a storybook of your project. So you can select one of these 4 if you'd like. And if you do up to, let's say if you do $1,000, then you'll get your own storybook with updates every 6 months. A little page comes out. You can, there's the number of people that are attending, number of people that came to Christ, all this and that. It's your project if you want to do that. Or maybe the church would select one. Now, Rwanda is an interesting twist because in Minnesota, they started planting Anglican churches there 11 years ago. And where did they get the governing structure? Well, it came from Rwanda because they've had Anglican churches there a long time. I didn't know that. So the last couple of summers, I've been worshiping in some of these Anglican churches, or one in particular in Minnesota. And what's happening, some of the mainline churches are drying up, like Lutheran churches and Presbyterian churches. I don't mean to be critical now, but the fact is, it's going down. Some of these facilities are now available. An Anglican church, even the one I was attending in Minnesota, was able to get this church for $1. It was worth $2 million, but their congregation had left. They started worshiping with the Anglican people. Said, "Okay, here it is." So anyway, Gene and I partnered with them to do some things to kind of make it more of a worshipful atmosphere in that church. I got so excited here, I went clear off what I was. Sorry. So maybe I concluded this. If you'd like more information, just send me an email or call me or something if you like to have interest. I do have one business card left here. And here's the book that I read 11 years ago that got me introduced to the organization. It's International Cooperating Ministries, again, is the name of the organization, ICM, founded by a businessman in Virginia, and he really put some discipline to this organization so we could do this. So 11,000, a little over 11,000 churches have been done now. The red dots on there represent our family that we've done. The black dots is another organization called the Timothy Initiative, and that's where you plant a church but no building. And you've heard of house churches, like in China and some places. Okay, so, and here's a quick summary of the Timothy Initiative. We're trying to go into places that are unreached, where there's just nothing there. And so for $300, we can train the person. We will send an experienced person in from the US here to just train at the very top level, and then they in turn train down at other levels. So that way, that's kind of off the... Okay, that's it.
Wow. Wow to Wes, wow to who'd have thought veterinaries and a Christian veterinary fellowship and their mission in Sierra Leone. Just, we have a lot of brothers and sisters in this congregation that are involved spreading the love of Christ all over the world. I hope that you found this little overview helpful today. Thanks to our presenters. The presenters don't know this yet, but we're going to work with them and with Sue, and we're going to try to figure out some way put this up on
Yes.
our website so that our congregants know not only what we're doing and the public knows what we're doing, but how they might want to get involved, whether it's El Hogar or in Haiti. There's, as you can see, there's opportunities all over the world. And we're it. We're God's hands and feet, so who's going to do it if we don't? So thank you. One other thank you, and that is to Sue Van Oss.
Here, here.
When I asked our presenters to give some visual aids to Sue, I gave her a little guidance. I said, visual aids. Well, some of us sent her PowerPoints, some sent video clips, and some sent YouTube. It's in there someplace, Sue. Just find the part that looks good. And the PDF, I mean, everything. And Sue was sorting through that. And then, of course, like all good presenters, we made some last minute changes yesterday. So it was about 11 o'clock last night when I got a message from Sue that said, I think I've got it. So, Sue, thank you very much.
Very well. And you asked me to bring the Messy Church map. I put it in the back there. One of the activities we did with Messy Church was we had kids share, what do you think are the messes in our world? And they splattered paint on it. And then they put hearts over how can we show love. So we have extra hearts there. And if you want to add your heart from your place to the map, we will be happy to add your hearts. And I put extra hearts there.
Please take a look at that on your way out. Let's see, if you'd like to hear more about any one of the missions, because as you heard, the programs heard folks say, man, it took me a long time to cut this down from my 45 minutes or 2 hours or whatever. So if you'd like to hear more about any one of these missions, let me know. And we'll either arrange to make an entire program of one of these or anyway, we'll try to get more information. We want to give everybody an opportunity to serve if they'd like to. The other way you can